Welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Last time we set foot into the Shadow Temple, we just kind of dipped our toe in, and this time we're actually going to be diving head first, so to speak. All we really did last time was grab the hover boots along with doing that spinner section back there, which unlocked the door so we can actually properly enter the temple. I left last time for a reason, and that was to do the Gerudo Training Ground, because the reward for doing the Gerudo Training Ground is only really useful in this dungeon. It was the ice arrow. It does do more damage than regular arrows, but that's not what I'm going to be using it for. And I saw it fit to leave the dungeon and grab the item because, well, I kind of want to show a lot of things off about this game, and things that people probably didn't know the first time they played, or maybe even as they're playing it now. This room has this center kind of Grim Reaper double thing with scythes, and just like with the ice cavern, you can kind of duck under or roll under the blades in order to avoid taking damage. With the hover boots on, it's actually not easier, but it's more convenient, because as you take out your shield, you'll kind of slide forward. You won't stop immediately. So you're getting a little bit of distance as you try to duck under the blades. And obviously I'm just taking them in the face. Another thing about the hover boots is that they kind of make you faster. In a previous part, I said that backwalking is the fastest way to move, considering that it's about as fast as rolling, except you don't slow down during it. Instead, you're constantly going in a single direction. With the hover boots, it's pretty similar because you slide a lot, which means that you're gonna be not losing momentum after you roll. So basically, you're gonna constantly be rolling and constantly having the top speed of rolling, because you won't decelerate due to your lack of traction, and that makes you faster, I suppose. I'm not sure if it actually is faster than backwards walking, but it feels fast, which is fine by me. The Gibdo here, I'm trying to show something that I heard off, but it's not apparently working. That if you burn the bandages of a Gibdo, they turn into a Redead, which kind of makes sense, They're basically the same thing as Redeads in terms of how they try to fight you. They'll scream at you, and then they'll try to hug you and sap away your HP. And they also get stunned by the Sun Song, just like Redeads do. So they're basically the same thing. That room gives us the compass, which is very, very useful in this temple, because this place likes to try and trick you a lot. By which I mean, it'll have a lot of treasure chests or rooms that seem inaccessible, but you look at your map and your compass, and they actually are. You just don't know how to get to them. And that makes this temple really the only temple where I find the map and compass useful, which kind of goes into why it's one of my favorites in this game. It probably is my favorite in this game, because it tries to make you think about the layout of the temple, and it also tries to make you, well, not make you think about things, but it tricks you when it comes to a lot of puzzles, quote-unquote puzzles, in this temple, which I like. I like it when my games are douchey to me for some reason, depending on, the douchiness. Like, Skulltula's randomly falling from the ceiling while I have slippery boots on. I could take off the boots and that will mitigate the problem, so that's okay. But like, if it's because of glitches or something like that, then, that's not a good thing. Unless I glitch somehow through the guillotine and not take any damage, that's fine by me. There's invisible floors here that you can use the Lens of Truth to see, but I'm just gonna roll my way across them because I know they're there. And since I have the hover boots, I could just keep constantly rolling, not hitting the ground or anything like that. This room looks empty, but as you can see, I'm taking damage. There is a big blade thing in this room, just like in the room where we got the small key. And it will hurt you even though it's not there, just like an invisible, I don't know, wall master, floor master, or something like that. The Lens of Truth will let you see it, but I have so many hearts, I can be reckless. And, you know, I don't really care. That's the reason why I got all these hearts, so that I could be reckless and rush into things head first. And enemies drop hearts anyways, like the Keys, which is the easiest enemy. They go down in one hit from an item that doesn't even kill normal enemies. It'll just stun them. It drops 3 hearts for you, so, you know, I don't see a need to play defensively. And there's a gold Skulltula. Of course, I don't want to say OCD, but I have to collect it. I just can't not. And as you can see by the compass, if you look in the corner, there are actually 2 chests in this room. One of them is invisible, and it has nothing very special in it. The only thing in this room was the gold Skulltula. So I could have avoided this room entirely, but I decided not to. And now I'll actually show off the death scythe thing, but it's as I'm leaving the room, so it doesn't really matter. Back in this big room, as you saw, there was a Stalfos over there. You can choose to fight it if you so desire, but I'm not going to, because being able to bypass it means that I'm wasting less time. And this is also a short dungeon, despite it being one that you have to beat the fire and the water temple for, and those both are pretty difficult dungeons. Well, not difficult, time consuming. This one is a lot shorter than those 2, although that might be because I entered the dungeon and grabbed the dungeon item as well as opening the main door to the dungeon before even properly doing the dungeon. So it's partially my fault that this dungeon feels so short, I guess. Like, it shouldn't be if you're going through it normally. If you use the Lens of Truth there, you'd see that there was a block hidden in that wall, but I didn't. So I just grabbed the block because I know it was there. In this room, there's a sign somewhere, or maybe it's one of the skeletons and you talk to Navi or something, and it says that there's a stone umbrella in this room. That stone umbrella being this block. It'll stop you from getting crushed by the spikes. If you do get hit by the spikes, it's a room reset. Basically the same thing as falling down a pit. You lose a heart and then the room resets. You're sent back to the beginning of it. This stone umbrella is required in order to get past this room, because you need to climb it at this point once you've pulled it all the way to this side, and then use the spiky... Whoa. How did I not die from that? I don't think the spikes actually do damage. They just kill you if you get crushed. But I was clearly touching them. So I guess that's the case. This room, if you get past it, well, you need to get past it, because it has a key in that chest. And that's the only real chest that's worthwhile. The others probably have rupees or, whatchamacallits, arrows inside. Also, there's a gold Skulltula in that room, but I decided to ignore it. I'm getting better. Those spinning blade things, I don't know why, but in the 3D version, they can knock you back so far. Like, you'll go careening off of the edge if you have the hover boots on. If you don't, you'll just, like, take regular knockback. There you kind of have to use the Lens of Truth, because there was this sort of, platform that moved back and forth, and you won't be able to tell where it is if you don't use it. And check it out, there's spikes here, and I am walking over them like it's no problem. I mean, it isn't, because I might have said this before, but certain things are programmed similarly. I think I said this in the fire temple. And those certain things are spikes, poisonous floors, and lava floors. If you touch any of them, then you'll take damage as soon as you come in contact with them. That is, if you're not wearing the Goron tunic. When wearing the Goron tunic, you won't take damage for a little bit after you start stepping on lava. And since lava, poison, and spikes are programmed pretty much the same way, then you won't take damage from stepping on spikes either. Another way to avoid damage from spikes is with the hover boots. I assume that since they're programmed similarly, this would also work for lava floors and poison floors, where if you try to walk on it with the hover boots on, you'll be able to stay up for a few seconds, and then you'll obviously get hurt as soon as you touch it if you're not wearing the Goron tunic. But as you can see here, I'm wearing the hover boots, and it creates the protective platform for me, and I'm able to step on the spikes no problem. Or step over the spikes, rather. That's mainly the reason why I like to have the Goron tunic on. If there's any floor hazards around, you're pretty much safe, because either the hover boots or the Goron tunic will protect you from it. In the last room, I got all of the silver rupees, but that didn't really do much in the case of getting forward into the dungeon. So what we have to do here is we have to take a bomb and throw it into this burning thing. I missed. You could use regular or bomb flowers. The bomb flowers, I guess, are just in case you run out. I guess it's a fitting penalty for running out of bombs. Like, you'll have to deal with the bomb flowers instead, which means they take a bit longer to explode, and if you miss one, you have to wait for it to grow back. If you miss both of them, rather, because there's 2 bomb flowers there. And that's not that bad of a penalty. It just means that you're wasting a little bit of time. It's not like it's taking away any hearts or magic or anything like that. But it does mean that you're left with 0 bombs, which kinda sucks. The reason we blew up that thing was because there was a key inside, and we needed that key in order to proceed with the dungeon. I say that as if there's any other reason to use small keys besides, you know, getting further into a dungeon. In order to get to this top platform here, you need to use the Lens of Truth. I mean, I suppose if you have the spot memorized, you don't. But use the Lens of Truth to see the hookshot target at the top, and then use it to get to the top platform. This room has a bunch of fans, and these fans, if you're wearing boots like the hover boots or the regular boots, they'll blow you back. If you're wearing the iron boots, however, you can face them head on and stomp your way through them. I feel that that's the better option. They do eventually stop blowing after a while, and I guess that could be your chance to continue, but I just like using the iron boots. I think it's the fastest, even though it slows down your speed the most. And for this one, you could wait for the hover boots, by which I mean wait for the fan to stop and then use the hover boots to get across, but you could also hookshot to the wooden part and use the iron boots still. This room has a ton of those fans, and I am quickly trying to get past it by side hopping everywhere. That ice switch up there, it's closed currently. If it opens, it'll shoot a fireball at you. While it's open, that's the only chance you have to actually shoot it with an arrow, but I don't find it too much of an annoyance, so I just decide not to deal with it. And once you enter this room and exit, it'll respawn anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. If you lock onto this wall thing here and then talk to Navi, she'll give you a hint about how to cross into the next room. Basically, you're supposed to use one of the fans while using the hover boots, and it'll push you into an invisible wall. Obviously, you'll need the Lens of Truth to actually see the invisible wall if you don't know where it is. There's also a tiny chest here that just contains arrows. Not that useful. It's the first wall when you exit the room that requires that you fly toward it. And I don't think you specifically need the fans. You can make it on your own. It's just the fans will be there for insurance. Now this room is pretty sneaky. You need to blow up this rock here, and it says there's a chest underneath, but it's invisible. So it's like twofold douchebaggery. And also there's another chest in this room that I think appears after killing all the enemies, but it doesn't have the key, so it's not, it's basically a red herring. It's not at all useful. What the game wants you to do in this room is use this block and pull it all the way to the ladder over there, and that'll make it easy to climb the ladder. But we have the hook shot, and you can't not have the hookshot at this point. So you could just hookshot onto the ladder in order to climb it. Opposite of the ladder, there's an area where you can call the Scarecrow and get a gold Skulltula, but I'm trying to get past my... Oh jeez. I don't think I actually do it. I just play the Scarecrow song to show that he's there, and then I go onto the boat. In order for this boat to move, there's a big Triforce on it, so what do you think you have to do? Play Zelda's Lullaby. They really improved this boat graphically when it comes to the 3D version. Right now it just kind of looks like some weird bird thing. But in the 3D version it looks like a Grim Reaper kind of thing. Like shrouded in a cloak, as a skull for a face. And those bells at the front of the boat, they're actually being held by the skeleton at the front. It looks a lot better. And we're going to encounter skeletons while on this boat. There's a bunch of Stalfos. Obviously, with the big Oron sword, they're not that big of a deal. All you need to do is get close to them and give them a stab, because Link is pretty low profile when he does the stabbing move with the big Oron sword. You can actually get underneath a lot of things, including the shield of the Stalfos, and I think I might have shown it off before with the Gerudo, the ones that actually do fight you with their twin scimitars. You can get underneath them by doing the stab with the big Oron sword, and it's pretty easy to get them. Once the ship has reached its destination, it'll start to fall, so just jump off onto this side bit. And you get a lot of time to do it, and Navi also warns you about it, so you're not going to be completely lost. If you shoot an arrow at those bombs, this pillar will fall down, and you'll be able to get across. They kind of show, like in the way the dungeon looks, that you can shoot that, or at least you can get it to fall down somehow, because it looks similar on this other side, like a pillar has fallen, and there's also a broken base of a pillar on the opposite side as well. We're at the final stretch of the dungeon. This set of rooms, it's a bunch of walls that you can't see with the Lens of Truth, which means that if you don't have the Lens of Truth on, you can basically see through them. And there's a few keys that we have to collect. These will be pretty much the last keys that we get. There's an invisible floor master here, which sucks, because what I like to do is I like to kill the floor master and then hit the baby floor masters with a quick spin attack. And since you have to use the Lens of Truth to see them, and you can't use two things that consume magic at the same time, you won't be able to do the magic consuming spin attack. You can't even do the quick spin attack. I mean, you can, but it won't have the shockwave effect that it usually does when you first get your magic meter. All this really gets you is another small key, but of course it's necessary to complete the dungeon. We are also going to be getting the boss key in this set of rooms. It's not one of those cases where the boss key appears way before you even know where the boss door is, like with the forest temple. Like, you could get the boss key, I think, just after you get the arrows, which is about halfway through the dungeon. This room is completely optional. There's some gold Skulltula here, and I guess it's sort of like the Goron roulette thing in Goron City, where there's, you know, the spinning things, and you need to land bombs inside of them in order to blow them up. They don't really have anything useful inside of them, again, except for rupees and the gold Skulltula here. Well, the gold Skulltula wasn't really inside of it, it was just there. And of course, I was going well with the Scarecrow thing, but for some reason I just had to collect this one. I can't really think of any other case where something that wasn't in like a child dungeon acted as a tutorial for this dungeon. Although, we did have a room with those things before, so I guess that other optional room could also count as a tutorial for that room. Though the skeleton thing wasn't moving, so I'm gonna keep with my logic of the Goron roulette thing being a tutorial. And this room here, I don't think you can use the fire arrows to burn away these wooden bits. You have to use Din's fire. And if the wooden bits do actually get to crushing you, then I think the only penalty is you restart the room or something like that. It's not a game over. Although I haven't been crushed by the spikes because I don't experiment enough, I guess. Or maybe I'm just that good that I don't feel myself worthy of getting poked by these spikes. We finally got the boss key, and luckily we've made our way not counterclockwise, clockwise around the room. So that means we're basically going to be getting back to the beginning of it. So they arranged it in such a way that once you get the boss key, if you're going clockwise like I was, then you're going to be able to get back right to the room that that the boat was in. Well, that we jumped off the boat from, rather. Well, no, I suppose it counts as one gigantic room. Now we just need to go through one final room and get to the boss. I have equipped the ice arrows because the boss is the only real reason to have the ice arrows in this dungeon. It's something that not a lot of people show off, as I said before, and I find it entertaining, I suppose. I don't exactly execute it correctly, at least I don't think that I do. But first, let's get to what the boss actually looks and fights like. When we fall into this pit, we bounce. This thing that we're on isn't just a normal platform. It's actually a drum, as you can see by these gigantic hands that are currently drumming on what we're standing on. If you're wearing the hover boots, it makes things a lot easier because it basically makes it so that you're constantly touching the floor in massive air quotes. So certain actions that you can't do while in air, like using your arrows, you can do with the hover boots on during this boss fight. As you can see here, you can freeze one of the hands with the ice arrows, and then the other hand will try to punch it out, as in punch it out of the ice. While you're doing that though, the other hand is pretty much invincible. So what I think you're supposed to do is, once you've hit the first hand, you have to hit the actual main body, which I'm going to show off in a second. The regular way to do this is just hit both of the hands with regular arrows, and then shoot an arrow at the main body once it gets close enough, and that totally should have hit. With the ice arrow method, if you freeze one of the hands, I think the boss will be exposed, and you could just hit him with the arrow from that point. But I guess I messed up. Actually, that was the first time I really used the ice arrows during this boss fight. Usually I just use the regular arrows, and once one hand gets stunned, the other will try to attack you. But if you're quick enough on the draw, you can lock onto the other one and shoot it before it has the chance to. The only time that the hands are really invincible are when one of them is frozen. They have three kinds of attacks. One of them is they'll try to crush you, like with their palm. Another is they'll kind of sweep the floor with their hand, like the palm to the drum, and they'll sweep the drum. And then the other one is they'll kind of try to push you off of the edge, and then you'll fall into the poisonous pit below, which, if you're wearing the Goron tunic, I don't think that's too much of a big deal, considering that I think this poison is programmed the same as the lava is, so with the hover boots and the Goron tunic on, you won't be taking damage from it. And, of course, once you've stunned the hands, you hit the big eye, and then it gets stunned and you attack the big eye. It's not that difficult of a boss fight, but it is pretty interesting that an optional item is the quote-unquote weakness of the boss. You don't really see that in, well, at least in the 3D Zelda games. But we've finished the Shadow Temple. It's pretty much the last temple. So next time we're going to be seeing the sage and getting the medallion. Oh snap, our hearts are full. Neat.